All right. Good morning, good afternoon, and very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, depending on your time zone, obviously. I'm Nabil Dimazi, and on behalf of AIBD team, I welcome you all to our first ever cybersecurity webinar on the topic of managing cybersecurity during the times of COVID-19. Today, we have a rich lineup of speakers and also participants from 27 countries. So without further ado, I would like to give the stage to Ms. Philomena Gnanapragasam, renowned broadcaster, Malaysian broadcaster, and also the Director of Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development, AIBD. Ms. Philomena Gnanapragasam.
It's a very long name to pronounce, Nabil. So you did well there. Thank you, everybody. I would like to say greetings from the Asia Pacific Institute for Broadcasting Development. It's a very, what do you call this? Most broadcasters in the world would have been trained by AIBD. And I think I'm very proud to sit on this chair and meet many eminent people who have made this organization what it is today. And so thank you so much for joining us in this very timely webinar on managing cybersecurity during COVID-19. And we all have been hit by COVID-19. And all the ingredients of COVID-19, I think, has actually led to fuel cybercrime. I'm not a cybercrime expert like all of you here, but I know definitely that something is wrong. And more than half the world is actually working 100% remotely. So none of us were actually ready for this shift to what's taking place right now, because we have never all worked at home, except perhaps the people from the UN. They're pretty used to it. But most of us work from the office, and commute to work. So when we all decided to stay home, I think it made a lot of cyber criminals very happy as well, because here they go, they found a whole lot of people that they could scam or hack or do things that they wouldn't have thought of before, or was a bit difficult when all of us were not just locked down like this. So the lockdown actually has made us seek new platforms to keep ourselves engaged and connected, like what we're doing at AIBD. And we've emerged on more than 6 webinars since the lockdown. But the platform also gives a lot of shortcomings and challenges. And so I think media agencies and broadcasters are at the forefront of delivering quick, reliable, and timely information to the public. And the chances of being attacked by scammers and fraudsters are even more. And the threat is even more grave on OTT and IPTV related services. So this session is going to be really beneficial to everybody, broadcasters, people on the IT line, anyone who's out there. We should know, because one of the very important topics, that is protecting kids online, emerging challenges and making it safe, is also something that we're going to discuss today. I would like to thank mostly the International Telecommunications Union, ITU, one of our founding members, an important partner, especially Mr. Sharma. All this began as a discussion and looking at what he has done in Bangkok in cybersecurity workshops. And that sort of triggered me to think, why aren't we sharing this with the broadcasters? And AIBD has more than 108 broadcasting organizations all throughout Asia Pacific, Africa, and even Europe. And so many people out there. And with the lockdown bursting, I spoke to him about it, and here it is. It's a reality. So thank you so much, Samir. I know that ITU is doing so much in this area. And actually, AIBD and ITU have worked together since 1977. So sitting there, he's my founding father, though he's pretty young. So anyway, and they have helped us through numerous projects. I would also like to thank my co-partners, Prasar Bharati, Mr. Sunil, Additional Director General is here. Thank you, Sunil. And we also have Mr. Philip Victor, a good friend now from Welchman Keen. Philip, thank you so much for all you've done. Really appreciate it. And I'm very happy to also say hello to Mr. Prasad Hom-aek. I've heard so much about you and your cybersecurity conferences in Bangkok. I'm really pleased that you're able to join us today. Thank you. It's a proud moment. And also to Mr. Dr. Pawan Dugal. Pawan Dugal was supposed to be in the Asia Media Summit in Siem Reap in Cambodia, but Dr. Pawan, you couldn't make it. So I'm meeting you virtually. And of course, Mr. Manu Zakaria, I think he's a well-known figure, Hacker Technology. Thank you so much. And also to my colleagues very near to home, Dr. Rose Haliza and Victor Lowe from MDEC, thank you for joining us. And of course, the rest of you who are on Zoom right now, thank you so much for joining this platform. And I hope that we will go back a lot more brighter on cybersecurity. Thank you. Nabil, unmute, yes.
Thank you very much, Ms. Philomena. As she has mentioned that this event is done in collaboration with Prasar Bharati and MDEC, along with so many partners and members. I would like to give the mic to Mr. Sunil, Additional Directorate General International Relations to Prasar Bharati, to say a few words. Mr. Sunil. Just a moment.
Yeah.
Mr. Sunil.
Yeah. Good morning, everyone. On behalf of Prasar Bharati, I take this opportunity to thank AIBD for taking ahead this strong partnership between India's public service broadcaster Prasar Bharati and Asia's intergovernmental body AIBD on their initiative to conduct this cybersecurity webinar, a landmark feat in technology, enabling us to meet virtually and share the vital information which can further a good broadcasting. CEO Prasar Bharati could not join today's meeting because of his preoccupations with the minister, and apologies for the same. Friends, while the broadcast business in general have an increased viewership and declined revenue stream globally, Prasar Bharati during the lockdown has been an exception to as having the highest viewership of its DD national channel in the world. This has been well reported in the Wall Street Journal of the United States and all the print and social media around the globe. I will put up a small 7-slide presentation. We had the SOPs in place well in time to protect the man and machinery. And now, just to brief my friends, to the public demand, and in more view of the uncertainty over the lockdown, we don't know how long it will continue. Almost all the state governments of the country have approached the public service broadcaster to carry their education channels for all the classes from class 5 to class 12 over the DD Free Dish platform, which is called the DTH platform, DD Free Dish, and the All India Radio. This is also being done. We are doing our duties as a public service broadcaster to help the mankind, to help the students of the country during this crisis. Friends, undoubtedly, the technology has brought us closer and its importance becomes paramount at times like this. The 21st era has brought in various new technological innovations in several fields, and the broadcasting industry is no exception to this. And with the passage of time, the latest inventions in technology have become an integral part of the broadcasting media industry, be it live telecasts of prominent events, studio animation, news animation, etc. There is a flip side of this too, the data hacking, stealing of the vital information, and so on. As far as the cyber threat is concerned, Prasar Bharati is well geared. It is vigilant and well prepared to take the measures for securing its different broadcast IT infrastructure from the IT threats. With the nations under lockdown due to the coronavirus pandemic, a large number of the employees in Prasar Bharati and all over the world are spending an extended period remotely logging into a secure computer network system to contribute to their work activities from home. This unprecedented increase in the remote access traffic can create additional vulnerabilities in otherwise a very secure internal computer systems. The assets of the broadcasting are invaluable artistic creations, and I would like to share some proactive advice taken by Prasar Bharati during this time in particular to minimize the chances of the cyber event or data breach. To ensure uninterrupted listening pleasure for connoisseurs of radio broadcasts, DDoS protected channels of content distribution network have been adopted. The equipment and the software used for all the aspects of broadcasting, like generation and distribution of the signals, are being maintained with up-to-date patches, etc., as per the advices by CERT. The web application firewalls are being used in addition to the conventional firewalls, with defined policies to ward off unwanted interceptions and injections. In the present COVID-19 pandemic, as already mentioned, online meetings and work from home has become the order of the day. However, due to any reason, if the participant tends to forget the sign out, this leaves a gap window for lurking vendors to strike. Employees ensure complete logout of such suites, isolating peeping toms. All systems used in broadcasting chain use state-of-the-art anti-malware protections, including Windows Defender. On the operational level, PV leverages the common IT tools in broadcasting. And to name a few, first, staying with the updated antivirus and ensuring that all software being used by the employees working remotely is up to date. Because automatic updates turned on will ensure that the computer itself checks for almost all the up-to-date operating software for installed applications every day. So regular virus scans by the employees using the built-in protection software, security programs have scan options which will scan all the files to ensure no malware or other harmful files exist on the computer system. Online broadcast servers can also be set to scan incoming attachments and the programs and online downloads prior to these being allowed onto the local network and the transmitters to ensure that they do not contain any malicious content. Second, we need to ensure the critical business data is backed up well, stored and easily recoverable. Using external or cloud-based service providers is a safe practice as it ensures that our backup data is kept in a location separate to our business operations. One of the most common types of breaches now being seen is called the ransomware attacks. Instead of stealing data from your organization, these attackers find your critical data and then encrypt it, digitally blocking you out of it, making it so that only the person with his digital key can unlock and access that data. Then the hackers offer the victims access to the key for a very large fee. So if your organization is hit with one of these ransomware attacks, you have only two options: either pay them a fee or store the log data from a recent backup. That is why the backups are so important. Recently, we have witnessed that a very large MNC has been forced to shut down their operations for the 3 days and then rely back on their backup operations. Prasar Bharati has very well implemented this and has a backup software for all the operations, all the broadcasting content which they are airing. Making sure your data is backed up and stored separately from your main repository that can help from us protect from such attacks in that case. Third, the cyber awareness, engaging and educating the employees is on the minds. As staff work remotely, it's a good time to remind the employees that most cyber attacks gain access to the networks via social engineering and the manipulation of a user within an organization, not via a command line. We remind the employees about the heightened risk that can unfortunately arise from the COVID-related scams, to keep their laptops well within their physical control, never to provide login credentials in response to an email request, not to use less secure devices such as the family computer to obtain or store work information. I mean, we always insist and advise our employees to avoid this, not to use the personal email accounts to transmit work information, not to use, not to leave any written corporate materials and all on their tables or any unsecured location, and try as far as possible to use the government provided Wi-Fi system for work related activity. Then on the finance side, we also advise people to use two-factor authentication for financial payments. The fourth, leverage strong complicated passwords that are not easy to guess. Today, there are hacking applications that can be plugged into a computer and in about 3 to 4 minutes will run through almost 10,000 passwords trying each of them. Then we need to secure our networks, usually having a firewall between your corporate network and the internet is very important to prevent someone from freely accessing your data. We need to secure our cloud, no matter what the cloud provider or service you use. Make sure you do a complete review and analysis of their security practices along with strong passwords and only access it via a computer of your own trust. Protect our bank information. We make sure that all the financial data, accounts and records are kept secure and segregated from the rest of our business general shared drives. If financial transactions are conducted electronically, we ensure that they are run over an encrypted connection. The physical security needs to be ensured. Our partners, trusted employees, and finance team to lock away any sensitive documents when they aren't working with them. And last, the our small screen, the mobile devices. While these are the convenient for the staff and will increase the productivity, mobile devices means that your client's sensitive data can walk out your organization door without you ever knowing it. Make sure that all mobile devices used to access the corporate data have passwords. Your email server can prompt and force this requirement. And if you have employees that use laptops, you should work at having the hard drives for those machines encrypted. Most modern operating systems have encryption built into them. So friends, just to conclude on this, what I just said, unlike the IT industry, the exposure of the broadcasting industry to security breach is not that high. But those broadcasting houses during COVID lockdown period who are resorting to remote access for protection, post-protection, and ensuring smooth transmission using remote access to safe and secure session computer network are definitely vulnerable unless and until they practice and review the above mentioned aspects what we just described. Any breach in the security would cost heavily. Possible damages caused by the security breach in the processing chain are the theft of the valuable content, the disruption of the service due to software corruption and international changes in the schedule, which we cannot afford, the deletion of the entire media, transmission of a content against the transmission code of the country, and the transmission of anti-national content and the adult content. Having said this, friends, I will just quickly run through a small presentation of the 7 slides, just to apprise the SOPs and the actions taken by the public service broadcaster to prevent the organization and the staff from this pandemic. Can we have the presentation, please? Yes, please. Next slide. So we have a staff cutoff. We are trying to call as minimum staff as possible and asking people to work from home just to take precautions against the containment of the disease. We have banned the physical movement of the files. CEO Prasar Bharati has been a digital man, and this initiative has been taken quite well in time before the pandemic. And gracefully and thankfully, we are in an advantage situation that we are not dealing with any physical movement of the files. One-stop delivery and dispatch of the letters, meetings over the VC only. The thermal scanning at all the entry points is ensured. There is a strict direction of the administrator that nobody, be it the CEO himself, should enter the premises without a thermal scanning, because that is for the safety and security of the entire staff. The sanitization of the complete workplace, all the newsrooms, all the studios, all the offices is in place. That is being ensured on daily basis by your administrative heads. Can we go to the next slide, please? Nabil, can we have the next slide? Yeah. And wearing of the face cover has been mandated by the government of Delhi also, and is necessary. So we are all ensuring that. For face cover masks, plenty of the educative material is available on the web and on the Ministry of Family and Health and Welfare sites. Then the latest instruction that all the canteens have been closed. While canteens and other operational locations like our various verticals, news, radio, kendras, from where the programs originates, may continue to deliver to the tables, but no mass gathering in the canteens is allowed. Next slide.
Speed up, Sunil, a little bit.
Yeah, just I think a minute more. So, and on the innovative content production, to boost the rating fundraising PM kids, we started special concert series like Sangeet Setu, Dawn Chorus programs to keep the listeners engaged during lockdown. All India Radio is just using its archives to reach to the people by the radio magazines, starting from the broadcast and all. Next, please. And the digital initiative which has been taken are the virtual classes. I just told that we have got a request from all the state governments, almost all the state governments, to start the classes on the TTH platform and on the All India Radio platform. We are doing that. Prasar Bharati has opened its repository of the good news and inspirational news for the digital access. We have gone into the iconic programs, and to engage people during the lockdown, we started many historical programs, the Ramayana, Shri Krishna, Mahabharata, Vishnu Puram, The World is Aware, Chanakya, Upanishad, Ganga, and all. And Ramayana creates a world record as the highest viewed entertainment program globally. So, do you have more? And the archival content also goes online to engage people during the lockdown. we uploaded many archival content of academic programs, films, etc. onto you. Friends, we have that much from Prasar Bharati today. So wish you all a very good day and very good learning from the other speakers. And any questions we can take it later on after the speakers are over. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Sunil ji. Now we are moving to a significant session, which is the keynote presentation by renowned cybersecurity expert, Mr. Samir Sharma, Senior Advisor, ITU, Asia Pacific. He is the regional focal point for COVID-19 to facilitate use of a digital platform to raise awareness and work with WHO, UNICEF, and UNICEF, World Bank, WEF, and he has also assisted several countries to establish emergency communications framework as well as network restoration. The topic of his keynote as well as keynote is building trust in digital world at COVID-19. Mr. Samir Sharma, I'm unmuting your mic.
Thank you, Nabil, and good afternoon, everyone. At the outset, first of all, on behalf of International Telecommunications Union and on my own behalf, I would like to express our gratitude for the kind invitation sent to us by our friend Philo from AIBD. Thank you, Philo, for inviting us. I'm very excited to see that such an important topic has been given high priority by AIBD. And I'm happy to see so many friends, not only on the panel, but also participants. As you see that we are currently witnessing such an unprecedented humanitarian crisis due to COVID-19, never witnessed in the history before, and we mourn the lives lost, more than 250,000 people, and 3.5 million confirmed cases. We despair that many more will follow, particularly in the places least able to cope. As per International Labour Organization, that there will be more than 300 million job losses, and the millions of children are in the danger of missing life-saving vaccines. Poverty could raise by 500 million people, the first increase in the 3 decades. Today, the billions of people around the world have been ordered to stay at home to help curb the COVID-19 pandemic. As a result, the number of people working from home has skyrocketed, raising alarm bells for the cybersecurity experts who warn that it's created an ideal environment for the cyber criminals to thrive. Generally, cybercrime is on the rise and the businesses faces a wide range of growing threats. It is estimated that there will be over 4 million threat types by 2025. Just go to the second slide, please. Yes. In this scenario, the information communication, go back. In this scenario, the information communication technology has a critical role to play in helping the governments, businesses, people everywhere cope with the unprecedented crisis and ultimately defeating the crisis. Already ICT technologies and the services are supporting continued access to healthcare, education, essential goods and services, safeguarding social and economic fabric of societies worldwide. ITU, as a United Nations specialized agency for information communication technology, is strong of its global and diverse membership, has called on ICT community and others to raise to the challenge and show the solidarity in the face the pandemic's threat for humanity. In 2015, as you're all aware, the UN identified 7 sustainable development goals to be achieved by 2030, ranging from eradicating poverty, guaranteeing stability, peace to fight discrimination and climate change. In particular, let me give you an example. Digital technologies, particularly such as Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, can facilitate efforts to achieve SDGs. For example, AI can help detecting malnutrition using photographs of individuals living in a given area. Here too, cybersecurity is crucial. Should pictures of those individuals be stolen or AI models become corrupted, the use of AI to fight starvation could become problematic. Therefore, cybersecurity underpins trust in and thus the adoption of digital technologies for humanitarian and environmental purposes. Next slide, please. Now let's take a look at the impact of the COVID-19. As per the World Economic Forum, a recent report portrays the impact of this entire crisis and how to avoid COVID infection and what are the efficient mechanisms to find the vaccines, impact on trade, impact on travel. It lists out three key specific things. First, that this pandemic poses the risk of increased cyber attacks because everybody is online, and those who were physically doing work, they are all more and more, including the children, are getting online, and the hackers are targeting people's the increased dependence on digital tools and platform. And therefore, the strategies to maintain cybersecurity, including maintaining good cyber hygiene, verifying sources, and staying up to date on official updates. Next slide, please. So there are three key things, that comes out of this report. The first is the heightened dependency on digital infrastructure raises the cost of failure. In pandemics of this scale, the cases of coronavirus reported in more than 150 countries, which is actually increasing. I think it should be more than 170 now. And the dependency on digital infrastructure, the internet has almost instantly become the channel for efficient human interactions, the primary way to work, contact, and support one another. And the second, cybercrime exploits fear and uncertainty. Criminals exploit human weakness to penetrate systematic defense. In the crisis situation, particularly for the prolonged period, tend to make mistakes, and they would not make otherwise. Online, making mistakes in terms of which links you should click or which sources to trust, I think that could cost you dearly. So think before you click. And lastly, more time online could lead to riskier behavior. More and more people are spending more time on accessing to internet. For example, the users could fall free access for the obscure websites and the pirate shows, opening the doors to likely malwares and attacks. Next slide, please. If you take a look at Europol, they have prepared a very thorough report. This infographic on the left-hand side portrays the systemic way in which sequentially, when there's a high demand of certain goods, which is perceived as a protective gears and the pharmaceutical producers that all of us need, will lead to the decreased mobility and the flow of people across this entire European Union. Since this is a case of European Union, with the limitation for the public life will make some criminals active, which will also lead to citizens remaining at home with the increased teleworking, relying on digital solutions. So what does it show? That the COVID-19 pandemic has forced national governments, and in particular European Union, to enact various measures to limit the spread of the outbreak, supporting public health in particular, and safeguarding economy to ensure public order and safety. A number of these measures have a significant impact on seriousness, which are organized crime landscape with the threats from the violent extremists. To understand the impact of the COVID-19 pandemic, I think, let me take you to the next slide as well. Nabil. This is a case of some of the findings of the cybercrime for the COVID-19. I'm not going to go through all these details, but suffice to say that because this pandemic has got serious health issues and people, the criminals try to take advantage of this vulnerability of the virus proliferation. Criminals have used this crisis to carry out social engineering, as has been said, as primary means for attacking phishing emails, spam campaigns, targeted attempts for the business email compromises. There's a long list of cyber attacks and against organizations and the individuals, including phishing campaigns, distributed malware, malicious links, and information received from the law enforcement agencies strongly indicate that increased online activity by those seeking child abuse material. This is consistent with the posting of the dedicated forums and the boards by the offenders, welcoming opportunities to engage children. And the pandemic has also impacted the dark web operations. Certain illicit goods will become more expensive. And on the right-hand side, if you see one of the interesting examples that we have seen, the attack on the critical information infrastructure in one of the cities of the Czechoslovakia. Since the state of emergency was declared on 12th of March, the attack was considered an attack on critical information infrastructure. The incident prompted the hospital to postpone urgent surgeries and remote new acute patients to the nearby alternative hospital. Next slide, please. Another example is for the counterfeit substandard goods. Go back. The distribution of the counterfeit or the substandard goods has been key area for the criminal activities in relation to COVID-19 pandemic. Sale of counterfeit healthcare and sanitary products, as well as the personal protective equipments and the counterfeit pharmaceutical products has increased manifold since the outbreak of crisis. Advertisements and the scale of these items take place both on and the offline. On the right hand side, you see an operation was actually commissioned by the Interpol in 90 countries worldwide that took place between 3rd to 10th of March. Result was 121 arrests were made, or more than 13 millions in potentially dangerous pharmaceutical compounds were seized, and 32,600 packages were inspected, and 4.4 million units of illicit pharmaceuticals seized worldwide. So this gives an example of how the counterfeit and substandard goods are being the main examples of how the perpetrators are using this. Next slide, please. This is just to give an examples of the scams. You would receive this kind of email, the coronavirus safety measures. It's one of our key sister organizations in the UN. WHO is responsible for generating authentic health related SMS, the messages. So you would see an email with the email header impersonating WHO, and then malicious software embedded in this attachment. The moment you click, I think you would compromise the safety. Similarly, on the right hand side, you see another example, sending another email. So be careful of such kinds of messages that you receive. So think before you click. Next one, please. Since we're talking for the broadcasting industry, I thought it will be pertinent to give an example of the impact on the broadcasting industry. One of the consulting house analysis mentions has portrayed 2019 to 2021, the impact on broadcasting industry, especially on the OTT as well as the OTT linear channels, and then VTV on demand, DTU, etc. Disruptions from the COVID-19 in the changing value of transactional advertising and the subscription revenue. These countries currently account for 75% of the worldwide pay TV and OTT video revenues. The total retail revenue for the pay TV and OTT video services in these countries will be 3.4% lower in 2020 than predicted in the previous 2019 forecast. And the retail revenue for 2021 will further lower by 1.8%. Next slide, please. Coming from the UN family in the Asia Pacific region, one of our sister agencies, the UNICEF, has released a report on the impact of the policy response for the COVID-19. And this slide on your left-hand side shows the GDP growth decline in the Asia Pacific region due to COVID-19. You can see whether it's the ESCAP region or the Northeast Asia region or the Pacific region, all of them are showing economic slowdown. And in particular, the South and Southwest Asia, you see more than 1.5%, which is a significant slowdown. On the right-hand side, I think most vulnerable group here is the women. So women will continue to shoulder disproportionate and increased burden of care, and they are at increased risk of gender-based violence, and they become vulnerable. Employment may fall back into poverty, and access to health services for women may dwindle. I think these are very important findings that we must ensure that we pay attention to the policy measures, especially to make sure that the women are healthier. Next slide, please. And a mechanism for regional cooperation has been proposed in this report, showing that the countries with established universal healthcare and universal social protection systems are better positioned to address the pandemic. and vulnerable population groups must be placed at the center of the social policy reform packages in the short to medium run. And the long-term countries should invest to enhance emergency preparedness and strengthen social protection. And digital connectivity is making social distancing possible, as we are talking today, participating in this webinar without social isolation. Investment need to be stepped up to reduce the digital divide. And finally, regional cooperation can promote enhanced collaboration on the healthcare related R&D, so the vaccines and the medications can be developed quickly. Next slide, please. One of our sister organizations, Interpol, we work very closely with them. I thought I'll share with you the quick cyber safety checklist. The first one is the backup, as Sunil already said, the online and offline files regularly and securely, and strengthen your home network. Use strong passwords, keep your softwares updated, manage social media profiles, check privacy and security settings, and avoid opening and deleting suspicious emails or attachment. The key message is be vigilant, be skeptical, and be safe. This is from Interpol. Next one, please. In the Family of United Nations, the ITU under the World Summit on Information Society, under the action line C5, got a mandate of building trust and safety in the use of ICT services, in particular, 4 specific services under the global cybersecurity agenda of ITU. ITU maintains these 4 pillars. The first one is the engagement, awareness, and building information sharing. We carry out this by, first of all, coming up with the Global Cybersecurity Index, which I'll cover shortly, and the global, regional, and national events that we organize in most of the countries, partnership development, and the good practices sharing. The second pillar is the National Cybersecurity Assessment, which is that the postures of the country's cybersecurity preparedness, developing the National Cybersecurity Guidelines or the strategy, critical information infrastructure protection, and child online protection guideline. The third pillar is actually the physical door, which is the computer incidents response team, readiness, design, implementation, and enhancement. And finally, the capacity building, carrying out several trainings as well as cyber drills and high-level cybersecurity simulations for the ministers and prime ministers. Next one, please. Just a quick snapshot of the Global Cybersecurity Index, which is actually a composite index of around 25 indicators against the 5 pillars, which is like the legal measures, technical measures, international cooperations, capacity building, international collaboration. Based on this, shows the members' preparedness and the commitment. It's a capacity building tool, and the right-hand side, in the last cybersecurity index, you see the top 11 countries, 3 of them, congratulations, the host coming from Malaysia is on in the top 10, and we have Australia and Singapore also in the top 10 global cybersecurity index. We are currently carrying out the next iteration of GCI. Many of you would have received the request from ITU, and we'll be publishing this index very soon. Next slide, please. Another important measure that we propose is to establish a national cybersecurity strategy, because many countries do not have this strategy. If you don't have this strategy, we won't be able to actually implement the safe and secure infrastructure, critical information infrastructure. So this is a toolkit that we have prepared, and many countries, for example, Bhutan, Nepal, and many Pacific Island countries, currently we have assisted, and we are assisting many more countries to design and develop the strategies. Once the strategy is there, then we can talk about their CIIP, as well as establishment of the CERT and the training infrastructure. Next one, please. And another very important tool for capacity building is to organize cyber drills. And in cyber drills, the best example I can give, the last year we organized in Malaysia was our host, thanks to our friends who are there from Malaysia, including from the Ministry of Communications and Multimedia Malaysia, and the SKMM colleague, William is here, and the NACSA. We hosted this very interesting joint cross-regional event with CIS in Asia Pacific region. with the intent to enhance cybersecurity capacity, enhancing awareness, strengthening international cooperation. What we do practically in these drills is for those technical people who are managing this cert and how best they can actually respond to the risk that is there and what kind of tools they can actually apply, and for any future eventuality, not only just to respond, but also not only to react and respond, but also proactively anticipate how those measures can be taken, and digital forensic. Next one, please. This another very important area is the protecting children online. As you have seen that this, because of the global pandemic, the kids are more and more, being online, including the sessions from the schools, either through broadcasting or predominantly, say in Thailand, my son, he's getting online through all these Zoom sessions, what we are having, they're having their online classes. So which actually makes them more vulnerable, the content which may be unprotective, and this can also lead to social engineering, and ICT industry has got a very important role to play for preventing and mitigating violence against children online, starting with the education and the awareness by the service providers. And also we have to see that the design by inception, we must make sure that whatever products and services are there should be safety inbuilt by design. For the proactive, developing a strong age verification system, detecting, blocking, and removing illegal and harmful material, so that these platforms can report promptly and collaborate fully with the law enforcement agencies. So children and young people will no doubt face the new, different reality after this crisis, and their future seems uncertain. Therefore, they will have to be part of the solution. So we need to actually consult with them. For example, we are revising the child online protection guidelines recently, and we are working with the children. We are consulting the children, because any guidelines, any policies without the children cannot be for the children. Next slide, please. This is to give you, this is to give you an example of our collaboration with the UNICEF, with the guidelines for protecting children against violence, UNESCO, UNODC, We Protect. We come up with recommendations for the children to empower children online. Don't scare them overtly, but at the same time, make sure that they can participate with caution, support parents and caregivers to help children safety online, provide safe online learning experience, making online platforms safe and accessible, and strengthening national prevention, response, and support services. Next slide, please. Now, Amal, I'll have just a couple of slides. I will just wrap it up just to give you the key efforts that we are making with our sister agencies globally, as well as on the country level. One of the foremost effort that we have launched with the ITU and WHO joint statement, unleashing information technologies to defeat COVID, because WHO is the main agency in the UN system who's taking lead because it's a health-related pandemic. But they also recognize that most of the vulnerable communities may not have access to internet. They don't have access to digital platform. So what we have done in a joint statement, this initiative builds on the current efforts to disseminate health messages. So it's a specific 50 library of the health messages that we are sending to our ministry, regulators, and mobile service providers, so that they can provide SMS, IVR, or USSD-based messages. In fact, we have sent to around 25 countries in this region, which is creating lots of interest as well as safety and safeguard against the COVID. Next slide, please. Another global initiative that we have taken is with the World Bank, ITU, GSMA, and the World Economic Forum to make sure that this response to the crisis for the digital development joint action plan call for action has been developed for the 5 priority areas: increasing bandwidth, strengthening resilience and security of the network, and managing congestion. Second, connecting vital services, ensuring continuity of the public services, safeguarding welfare of population. Number 3, powering fintech and digital business models. Number 4, promoting trust, security, and safety. And 5, leveraging power of mobile and big data. This is a very big global initiative. We are starting from Bangladesh. We are drafting the concept note and will reach out to other countries for this impact. Next slide, please. So as an ITU global level on the left-hand slide, in the left-hand side, you can see for the slide that we have created a platform REC for COVID, which is a platform for the global best practices that can improve COVID-19 responses. Actually, you can see this portal, which countries, regulators, ministries, service providers, AI providers, what the best practices they have. And on the right-hand side is specifically for the cyber security resources for COVID. Some of the bullet points that you see in my presentation slide, they come from the World Economic Forum, Europol, they are taken from this website. So please feel free to see those rich resources so that you can actually make sure that you don't miss and don't reinvent the wheel. Next slide, please. So finally, to conclude, as Philo said, tomorrow we are organizing a big global event in this series of the digital cooperations during COVID-19 and beyond. The theme is online safety and security during COVID-19. Queen of Sweden is joining. And Doreen Borgan-Martin, the director of ITU BDT, will be moderating this session. This is starting tomorrow at 3 p.m. Geneva time. Next slide, please. So with this, I would just like to conclude that COVID-19 has offered unprecedented, challenges, but at the same time, we can also see a lot of opportunities. For the first time, we see digital platform has become the de facto norms for not only providing services, communication, but also for life-saving solutions. This is a new norm actually that we need to follow to be able to stay connected, stay safe and healthy. With that, thank you very much for this opportunity. I stand by for any further questions and clarification. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sunil. Mr. Samir Sharma, for enlightening us your perspective. Now, to move further, I would like to call upon our moderator of the event, Dr. Amal Punchihewa. He's an ICT expert, media expert, who has been active over the last 4 decades. He has been researching and managing technology related to the broadcasting cyber domain. Also, as an educator, author, and cybersecurity expert, he has been creating awareness to the broadcasters over the last 2 decades. So I will hand the mic over to Dr. Amal.
Thank you, Nabil. Let me try straight away, try sharing my screen and then take a few minutes. Yep. I hope this visible to all the participants now. And then, is it visible, Nabil?
Yes,
yeah,
we can see your presentation.
Yeah. So I'm not going to take any of the speakers' time, but I need to give a very quick introduction into the complete webinar, because we had a very good keynote presentation from Mrs. Samir Sharma, who gave a broad view of cybersecurity. But I need to very quickly, maybe in a few minutes' time, I'm not going to spend any time on each of those slides, but which I will take up as we progress in our webinar. I want to highlight you, ask this question by yourself. So what is cybersecurity? Why it is a concern for us? And why it is more concern today than previously? And then and we do hear a lot about COVID-19, and this webinar is around that. And then we are quite used to the term hygiene. So this is almost like the hygiene in this COVID, and then the cyber hygiene. So the term cyber security is a very broad, and then so sometimes this does not provide a very clear picture of that, and therefore sometimes this leads to very narrow view of it is more technical. It is not technical, it's very broad. So this we could get from the ITU definition of cybersecurity, which we came up in 2008. So this goes back to 12 years that we came up with this definition, and what it says is all of these points. So this is what we are going to hear from the rest of the speakers in talking specifically about that. And what we are doing is we are training all you are now connected today on what is called the cybersecurity and creating awareness. What is cybersecurity and how you can handle this, like what we are doing for COVID-19. how we do that. And because this came up, today more than half the population is connected to the broadband, and we are more than in the past using this for our work as well. And that's the global average, 51% and 47 is APAC. So it's not too bad. But we have some sort of a news about like some of the attacks in the past, some of the threats on broadcasts, and then this has increased due to some of the changes that are happening in recent times. And also this is not just limited to normal computers, and nowadays we are using well connected devices and devices with other sort of a gadgets or some devices. And these are like what we call the IoT, and then this increases complexity. And then there was Mr. Sunil mentioned about the mobile, use of mobile, and then we are going higher in that one. So all these bring more complexity and more vulnerability in that one. So this is what we're going to hear from the rest of the speakers. And we have done so much work, and then so we could see in the broadcasting, we have, as broadcast globally, we have come up with some best practices and some recommendation, which I will highlight to you later. And also there are some frameworks to do that. So that helps us to maintain what's called the cyber hygiene. So in that context, some of the other public service broadcasters, especially in the European Union, has issued all of these recommendations to combat all of those, especially for broadcasters. So we could have a look at them later on. And then, our keynote speaker also mentioned about the net safe online security. And then with this one, I'd like to switch on to our first speaker, who will be talking about protecting kids online, emerging challenges and making it safe. It's done by Mr. Philip Victor, who is the Managing Director of Welshman Keen. So I invite him to start his presentation now. And Nabil, could you connect him and assist him to do that? And I'll keep a little count of the timing.
02.
Okay. All right. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can
Yes,
hear you.
we can hear you.
You're
Okay.
on the screen now.
All right, Dr. Amal, thanks very much for the introduction. So I'm going to keep this short and simple. First of all, I just want to say thanks to Philo from AIBD and also to Samir from ITU for having us online today for this webinar on this topic, which is very close to my heart. I think Samir knows that I was doing a lot of work on child online protection with the ITU before. And today I would like to share some of these things. Some of the things Samir has shared earlier, but I will cover some of the other areas as well. There are three things that I'm going to talk about today. First of all is why are we having this issue about protecting kids online during this time of COVID? Secondly, what are the issues we're looking at? And thirdly is how are we going to address these issues? Okay, what are the areas? So can I move to the next slide? Okay, very quickly, for those of you who don't know who we are an ITU sector member. So we're doing quite a few things with the ITU right now. And currently our focus is on the Pacific Island countries. We're doing some stuff on critical infrastructure protection, cybersecurity, capacity building stuff as well. So, and of course, we are also starting to get into the child online protection initiatives as well with the ITU. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So, yeah, if you look at the recent statement by UNICEF, they said millions of children are at increased risk of harm as their lives move increasingly online. So what's happening is, as some of our earlier speakers have shown, we know that schools are closed. A lot of businesses were closed, some are already open, but a lot of schools are still closed. Universities are closed still. So the question here is, what are our kids doing during this time when the school is closed? how are they compensating this time when the school is not open? So we see that they are turning into online. So kids are going more and more online. That is the issue now. And they are spending a lot of time online. Now, social activity has been cut. That's a big issue that we are seeing among children. So because they don't have social activity outside, they don't have schools, so they are spending more time online. And when they are spending more time online, I think previously I said, they are more susceptible towards the online harms. So therefore, we are seeing a lot of things that is happening online. If we can move to the next slide, I'll just show you a couple of things. So yeah, okay. So if you look at the slides, when children are spending more time online, these are some of the challenges that they are facing. If you look at those words that have been underlined, they are more vulnerable to online sexual exploitation, grooming, because of the lack of face-to-face contact. They are getting into involved into sending sexualized images. They are potentially more exposed to harmful content, violent content, and moreover, cyberbullying. And cyberbullying is a big thing. Now, just to share with you some statistics, just to show you that these things are real and it's happening during this time. If you see in Australia, the E-Safety Commissioner has released a report saying that during the COVID-19 crisis, they have seen a spike of 40% of cases of reported to them on various issues of child online safety, 40% during this COVID-19 period. So you see a spike in increased screen time is also a spike in the threat to children. In Alberta, they are seeing a 100% increase of cases reported to them compared to the previous month before COVID-19 was an issue. And they're seeing that there are a lot of, most of these cases are related to child exploitation. And if you see also there's another report in the UK where they are seeing a huge spike from online predators. So it's not just that children are spending time more online, but it's also that the predators are spending more time online. And that's the big issue that countries are seeing. And because of that, they are seeing a huge spike in various different cases. I don't know if before any of you have heard like cases like the Amanda Todd case before, where a young teenager who was bullied online and she committed suicide. There are a lot of cases that we have seen over the years where teenagers have gone into very brutally exploited online. Children being groomed online is a big thing as well. So therefore, this is an issue for us. So this is the issue that many countries are facing, many parents are facing, many educators are facing. So it's not a challenge just for the parents, it's a challenge for the country, it's a challenge for also the industry and all that. So when we see all these things, we need to see how can we address this problem. So if you look at the next slide, yeah. So if you look at the next slide, I put up a slide here with 4 points. The government, the industry, the schools, and the parents. So when we talk about how to keep our kids safe, it is not an individual role only. Yes, the children are at home more. The children are at home more. Parents are supposed to help them or basically look after them. But parents are also working from home, and that gives them less time also to see to their kids what they're doing online, where they are going, who they are chatting with, and stuff like that. So as much as the parents plays a role, the governments must also play a role. Now, the key words I would like to pull out from this slide are government to look into awareness, the industry to look at moderation policies, the schools to look at how they can provide some kind of access to school-based counseling services, and also the parents to look at more towards the other areas as well, things like how to make sure that the computers are updated, the antivirus programs are updated to ensure that at least the computers at home are safe. I think Samir also spoke, and the previous speakers have said, we are seeing a huge rise in cybersecurity cases. Actually, to give you the magnitude of it, I was just listening to the news just ago. The statistics shows that during the COVID-19 period, we are seeing a rise of 500% in cyber attacks. Okay, 500%. Now that's a huge amount of threats are coming in. So we are seeing people working from home, using unsafe means to connect to the offices. We are seeing, because people are working from home, we are seeing less security being employed overall. So this has caused 500% of cases in terms of cyber threat. And because of this, everyone is affected. And therefore, our kids are also affected. So, so governments must play a role. And because this forum is organized by AIBD, which is the broadcasting side, I think that TV and radio plays a very important role here. TV and radio providing adequate kind of messages on TV, adequate messages on radio, safety messages, like how they have this PSA, public service announcements, how to keep your kids safe. But I think most importantly is that this is something that many countries still do not have, is where or is there a hotline for people to call? Is there a hotline for parents to call? Is there a hotline for the kids to call when there's an issue with children being bullied online, when there's issue with children being exploited online? In fact, I like to ask this question when I speak to people. On top of your head now, if you know, if your child is being exploited, who do you call? Do we know who do we call? If we don't know, that means it's either it doesn't exist or it's not been made known to people. So many parents don't know where to turn to. So who do we call in your own country? Because I believe there are many people from different countries here. So in each of our countries, we need to understand that, do we have this kind of platform? Is the government providing such a platform for parents, for kids to basically bring this matter up? So I think having a local helpline or a national hotline will play an important role. Having the broadcasting companies like the TV, the radio, to come up with messages which will help is important as well. Okay. Of course, parents will always be there to play a key role during this period of time, but there's only so much that they can do. It's not my message for this slide is it is everyone's responsibility. It's the parents, it's the government, it's the industry, it's the schools, and that's how we keep our kids safe online. Okay, moving on to the next slide. I think Samir has covered the slide just now. ITU and UNICEF has done a lot of work on child online protection. I've put up the links to the references in the latest slide, where you can go to and look at all these references, where you can use these references. Things like this is the guideline from the ITU on setting up parental control if you want to. For today, all the browsers have come up with parental control. In case many of us don't know, browsers have already, I believe Firefox has it, Microsoft has it, Google, Chrome has it. They've all got parental control built into the browsers. Parents can take and make use of this kind of platforms that are there. We need to talk to our children about online safety. A very important message that I would like to spell out here is that never make our children afraid of the internet. And that's a very important thing. I believe that I've been doing this for many years, and I think we always try to say that the internet has got a lot of good stuff, but we are telling our children, but you need to be careful of this. These things are there. The dangers are there, and you need to look out for this kind of dangers. You need to be aware of these kind of things that can happen. But we don't want to say the internet is bad. The internet is not bad. The internet is good, but there are a lot of bad people. The world is a good place, but there are a lot of bad people as well. Okay, so teach our children about online safety. teach them the basic things about, how to do basic tech stuff, like, making sure their computer is updated and stuff like that. As they move into mobile platforms, we need to teach them about mobile safety as well. I'm trying to move fast here. Where to report, who to report, come and talk to them if they feel that somebody is bullying them online. Make sure that they know that they can turn to their parents or their teachers, or even the hotline they can use. Okay, so we want to make sure we create a culture where our children feel comfortable online. Actually, there's another very important thing I wanted to say in this slide is that we must let them have fun and express themselves online. Okay, not to be afraid. Have fun, do good things, where to go to get good stuff. Expose them to other online activities. It's not just surfing the web. Online videos, there are good stuff where they can learn to do things and stuff like that. So, and most of all, we must try to manage their screen time. Okay, if all this while they've been doing 3 hours a day, keep it to 3 hours a day or not more. I don't know what 3 hours is a lot probably, but what I'm saying is, doesn't mean there's no school, they increase the screen time. Try to look at alternative ways of doing it. Okay, the next slide. I think this is
That's
the
the
next
last slide, yeah.
Yeah, it's the last slide. Now, this is a statement from Dr. Hamadan Tore, who was the ITU former Secretary General. I had the pleasure of working with him a lot during my time in my previous organization when I was doing the child online protection with the ITU. And he made a lot of very good statements. This is one of them. Children have the right, everywhere have the right to have a safe environment, even in the cyber world. But because while the connection might be virtual, the danger is real. So the danger is real, but they have the right to be safe online. And I think that it takes all of us to basically play our role to ensure that kids are safe online. So that is, the next slide is actually the reference where you can get all the, I think let's not reinvent the wheel. I always believe that we should not reinvent the wheel. ITU has got a lot of good resources for parents, for educators, for the industry. So ITU and UNICEF has got a lot of good stuff that they have online. I believe the slides will be made available to you all. So you can use these references and see how you can use it in your own country, in your own organization, in your schools and all that. A lot of good stuff is already there. So these are internationally developed and you can definitely use it for the best in your environment. Okay, so I hope I was within the 10 minutes. And
about 10 minutes, it's okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. You did a great job there, Philip. Yeah, thank you so
thanks,
much.
Doctor.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Yeah. So let's move on to the next presentation. That's done by two speakers. They are from the Malaysia Digital Economic Corporation. So the head of cybersecurity, Mr. Victor Loh, and also the manager industry adoption program, cybersecurity, Dr. Roslisa. So both will be talking about the COVID-19, the rise of cybercrime. So we are looking forward to hear what they have been doing. And then we heard from Samir also that they are ranking, they are in the top 10 of the global cybersecurity index. So how they manage to be in that top 10, managing, building the capacity, because the key to the GCI is the capacity building, which includes both infrastructure and the human. So we could, you could bring those speakers on screen now.
Right, thank you, Dr. Amal. Hi, very good afternoon to everyone, and it's a good afternoon from Malaysia, actually, right? So I believe some of you may be in the evening time right now. Okay, so very quickly, I think is that this topic is interesting, not because it's only cybersecurity, but this is what we call it a challenging time, right? So just some background of statistics, two numbers I want to share before I pass to Dr. Rosalisa. So based on WEF survey end of 2019, right? Only 10% of the organizations or 10% of the G20 leaders prepared or acknowledge that global disease is an issue, right? So in other words, is that 90% of the global leaders actually are not prepared for a global pandemic like this, okay? So in other words, is that the work from home culture or the way that we work today was never our culture, right? So I think that is some of the statistics that are interesting from, very interesting statistics from WEF. Then the second statistics I want to share with all of you is that we all discuss about the bigger organizations, okay, the enterprise, how they're ready, how the country is ready, right? We discuss about the kids' internet safety online. But if we look at the economic side of the COVID-19, right, what is the biggest impact of this pandemic is the economy, right? I think there's a sharing from our colleagues that GDP is significantly impact, right? If you look at the impact of GDP as COVID pandemic, right? There's a statistics actually saying that I believe the study is from Deloitte, right? 40% of Southeast Asia GDP actually contributing from the sector what we call small medium enterprise, right? What we call SME in other words, right? So within this sector of SME, 40% is the contribution of GDP for Southeast Asia. But if you look at the bigger landscape of this, is that the impact behind this 40% is 70% of the employment of workforce today actually is from the sector of SME, right? So the question right now today is that how is this sector preparing for this COVID-19 pandemic in the on the subject of cybersecurity? I think that's the discussion that we will brief, and then I think there will be a very interesting topic that we share, and I hope that there is a lot of good learning that we can share with other country. So I think these are the two numbers that I just mentioned, and what we're going to do next is that we're going to share with you is that how we actually manage this COVID-19 cybersecurity challenge for the business sector, right? So I believe is that Dr. Rosaliza, you ready? So I pass to Dr. Rosaliza right now.
Hello, yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
All right, thanks. So my name is Roshaliza. All right, I shall continue with the slides. So recently MDEC announced digital COVID movement that is in collaboration with local technology companies to help businesses deploying various solutions to overcome the challenges that COVID-19 brought about. Specifically to cybersecurity, MDEC is working with technology partners to reach out to users to help them with business continuity and securing working from home facilities. In fact, we just had our final webinar this morning. So let's move on to the topic. As you can see from the slide here, right, you know that the global COVID-19 pandemic is affecting us. So for today, I think it's about more than 3 million being infected. So as the global security threats landscape is also in the rise, as mentioned by the earlier speakers, right? We can see that the phishing attacks soared since February, malicious websites with a COVID-19 team being published, right? Every day, more than 1,000 and approximately 1.5 million malicious emails related to the COVID-19 pandemic is being sent out per day, right? So the next slide. Right, so if you think that globally we are affected, it's not here in Malaysia or in any other country, you're wrong, right? So in Malaysia, cybersecurity threats landscape is not spread as well. So we can see that in mid of March, there's a rising at an alarming rate in Malaysia of, in terms of incidents of cybercrime, as well Malaysia as well as the Southeast Asia region, right? So Forbes reported that Malaysia is one of the top 5 countries being targeted by the cyber criminals during the outbreak, right? And our local newspaper, The Star, reported that cybersecurity cases rises by 82.5%. So if you wonder, right, the motives behind the two that make up the huge majority are money and information, that is to gathering of the intelligence. And what really that this cyber attacker are looking for is actually your sensitive data that is important and valuable information that you don't want to share with other people, right? So probably your username, your password, your credit card information, your personal information, your trade secrets, your IPs, and etc. So their MOs is basically to leverage the fake news, all right? Your fear, your uncertainty, probably your hunger for information that is related to COVID-19, right? And they come up with these phishing scams and malicious malware under the coronavirus umbrella. Apart from phishing, interestingly, one of the most recent scams that got updated is actually known as sextortion scam emails. So they probably contacted you and saying that they know about your dirty secrets and so forth. All right. So in a larger scale attacks such as DDoS, the attacker is actually trying to make your service or services unavailable to your intended users. Right. So who they are after? It's actually whoever that uses the internet. You, whoever that potentially target organizations, right, individual as well. So as we more heavily reliant on the internet, it's easier to exploit the fear and the uncertainty. So giving scammers more opportunity to find us, right? So probably next slide. Yeah. So not only from what is reported in the news, you can find information and announcement from reliable sources, such as from National Cybersecurity Agency, NACSA. So in the slides, that the announcement that NACSA warned netizens over a fake Android application containing malware. It's in the circulation that these apps trying to steal users' online banking details and contact numbers, and worse, that it can read the victim's messages as well as steal tag received from the bank. Right, next slide, please. All right, so besides the announcement, NACSA also have the alerts and advisories, and this is in the mid of April that they actually come up with the advisories on cyber threat relating to phishing emails crafted to lure information from the users. So even some of the phishing emails are being personalized to use local language and scenes, that is to make it least suspecting probably to the end users. Yeah. The next slide, please. All right, so having said all about the trend of cyber crime and cybersecurity, my stand is that cybersecurity matters more than ever. All right. Right, not even though the cyber attacks relating to COVID-19 still new, but the methods used to battle these issues remain the same. That's why we heard that people are saying that you need to step up your cyber hygiene standards, right? That is whatever that best practices that you might use previously to make sure that you're safe online. So probably some of the practical action to keep you safe, to use the strong password. You might want to avoid public Wi-Fi for the sensitive information and saving your details, right? Protect and harden information that will support work from home policy. If you might want to consider like remote access and those facilities to actually protect your work from home. And follow official updates like patching your OS, your applications, your antivirus, make sure it's updated regularly. And be extra vigilant on verification of emails pretending that coming from banks, for example, from legal enforcement agencies and so forth that you may have been dealing with, that they actually trying to steal your information, right? And as for businesses, probably want to pay attention to abnormal internal activities and traffic for any suspicious access requests and to look at the loads of external traffic. All right, so next slide. Okay, so earlier I was mentioning about the initiative from MDEC to work with the local technology partners. So we preach on journey of working from home and the solution approach. So we have like 5 security pillars, that is remote access, identity management, data protection, security operations or security monitoring, as well as the awareness. So Victor, you have anything you want to add on this, Victor?
Yeah, I think that's good. Thanks, Dr. Rosaliza. I think is that as what we mentioned earlier, I think is that we need, when we look at the COVID-19 cybersecurity approach, we should not forget that only the big organization is the victim of cybercrime, right? We should look at the economy side of it. Is that what are the businesses that could be disrupted by this, and we want to make sure that the business continue, right? And the conversation that we want to strike here is that it's not so much like if they're going to hit by cybercrime. It's more so much is that how they can continue the business while they're working from home, right? So there's two aspects of dialogue that we need to consider, right? First is that how we help them on business continuity, and then the second dialogue will be how we help them to ensure that they can perform secure internet activities, right? So these are the two aspects that we're driving from our local scene, and we hope that this can be some of the good sharing that can be carried on to the other part of the world, right? So I think that's all, Dr. Rosaliza. Back to the moderator, maybe, right? Or maybe before Dr. Rosaliza.
Yeah. Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Dr. Rosina, for your presentation. It is extremely good that you highlighted the fact that the impact on the small industries, and then at the time of this COVID-19, and also not only like, because we are focusing a lot on broadcasting. So there's a sort of in the complete ecosystem, if the other part of the business is not working properly, there won't be much any advertisers and the other impacts which will trickle down, which will connect it to the broadcasting, and then that impact the broadcast. So you could see that in a kind of a life cycle effect to that one. Thank you so much for your presentation. And before I move on to the next one, let me make a quick announcement that because we have been experiencing some technical difficulties with the Facebook streaming. We are unable to do that, but we will make available this later on the YouTube channel, and then we will share the slides. So before we move on to the next one, and also want to remind once again the other three speakers that we have another event happening right after this, which is organized by AIBD. So we need to finish close to the planned time. So I hope you will help on that with me. So the next presentation will be done by Hom-aek, and he's the president and founder of ASIC Professional Center, and we'll be talking about effective bring your own device mobile security policy. So over to you, Prinya. I hope you will try to restrict your presentation to 10 minutes. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. First of all, I need to thank you, Mr. Philip Victor, for inviting me, and AIDB and MDEC for giving me a chance to present in this session. My session is about the effective BYOD mobile security policy, but in 10 minutes, I don't want to discuss only the BYOD mobile security policy. I want to update what is happening in Thailand and what is going on in the world, and about COVID-19 and working from home. What happened in Thailand, I want to update in the first 5 minutes, and after that, in another 5 minutes, I will come back to the BYOD mobile security policy. Okay, I start with the top 10 cybersecurity in Thailand and in the world. And what happened in Thailand is we just released the new 2 laws, 2 acts. The first one is the Cybersecurity Act in May 27 last year, and second one is the PDPA Thailand Data Protection Act that according to the GDPR we will fully implement in the 27th of May this month. And we are using NIST cybersecurity framework for implementing in the 7 sector of Thailand critical infrastructure. and we focus on the ISO 27701 and ISO 27701 for the privacy framework, how to implement the PDPA in Thailand. We are moving from cybersecurity to cyber resilience and digital transformation. We think it needs a cybersecurity transformation too. Okay, for the top 10 cybersecurity, about 10 things that I want to mention before we go to BYOD policy. You can see the digital transformation. They need many buzzwords, cyber sovereignty, data governance. Bank of Thailand, they're focusing on the data governance for all the banking sector, and cyber resilience, cyber sovereignty. In Thailand, we have a national master plan for 20 years, a national level master plan that we want to focus on cyber resilience and cyber sovereignty also. First of all, we need to separate I from the T. IT stands for information technology, but till now we think we should separate I from T. We focus more on information, just only using the technology. We focus on information, let's say data governance and information governance. This is what we focus on, and we think the value is from the business alignment with the business and IT, not only using the technology, but we need to align the business with the IT also. On the security side, it's about value preservation, not value creation. Sometimes they don't generate ROI, return of investment, but sometimes they can help you to protect your reputation risk. Reputation is more important because customer loyalty and business sustainability is depend on your reputation. When we think about what happened in the world, from the Gartner report, we focus on social media, mobile computing, cloud, and big data analytics. For the technology, AI, machine learning, IoT, big data, for the previous speaker also mentioned about this. And we come back into the cybersecurity and data privacy. In the data economy, we think cybersecurity and data privacy are the foundation. That's why we need to release the new law for a tightening regulatory compliance in Thailand. That's why about the Cybersecurity Act and Personal Data Privacy Act. As I mentioned earlier, for the trend, we have a lot of incident about data leak and a lot of incident about cyber attack during work from home, during COVID time like this. A few months ago, we have a lot of cyber attack because people working from home, people working from the remote. And that's why the cyber attacks are on the rise also. World Economic Forum, they said cyber attack is a new normal because data fraud and cyber attack is two of the top 5 global risks in terms of the livelihood. We live in the VUCA world, volatility, uncertainty, complexity. We can call cyber attack is the new normal in cybersecurity. Getting hacked is a matter of if, but when. And that's why we need to understand that cyber attack can happen all the time. There is no 100% cybersecurity protection. We need to move from are we secure to are we ready? I got this idea from my friend, Dr. Meng Chao. He wrote a responsive security book long time ago that we prepare for the event, for the incident, for the unseen. And that's why we moving in this direction with many of the standards and many of the best practices. For the top 10 cybersecurity, we think cyber fraud will on the rise, deepfake, fake news, beyond fake news, cyber sovereignty, data breaches, tighten in regulatory compliance, and automation. Let's say MASP move to MDR and SCM move to SAW, and we need to leverage the AI, machine learning, and automation more in the cloud, in the SOC operation, and state sensor attack is on the rise also. Bank of Thailand just issued a new requirement that all the big top 10 banks in Thailand need to have a CISO, not only CIO and CISO, but separate from CIO and not running operation and report directly to the CEO. And 5G is coming also. Okay, I come back to the BYOD, okay, because I have about 5 minutes left. Now, cloud computing and shadow IT issue is a big concern in Thailand and around the world. People love to use their mobile, use the free cloud drive, Dropbox, Box, and so on, Google Drive, Microsoft Drive, and they will lead into the trend of the BYOD. The good thing about BYOD, user flexibility, less device for user, and more than one device on the network. But the cons of the BYOD is the IT department, the company, less control of the device, data security compliant on their device, who own the data, because they own their device, and how will you recover data if someone leaves? It is an important thing. Top 5 issues of the BYOD challenge, I think the first one is user awareness and their smartphone skill. Maybe they're using smartphone for fun, for gaming, for watching Netflix, YouTube, but for using smartphone for remote work from home, it's not easy like watching Netflix, right? And this is user awareness is a top concern of the BYOD issue. The cloud computing, shadow IT is the new normal. Mobile operating system, application vulnerability. Let's say we use Zoom, we need to use the Zoom latest version of the Zoom. We need to use a latest version of the iOS. I cannot remember 13.4.1, and I heard that we're using mail that come with the iPhone OS, but they have some 0-day, right? Tighten in the regulatory compliance, but if someone lost and stolen mobile device, what will happen with the enterprise? I read a very good source from the Vera code that they said BYOD security through BYOD policy, right? What about the regulation requirement, and what the measure will be taken for securing device prior to use? Where will data from BYOD device be stored, right? Stored locally in their device, so in the cloud. I never saved the important information in the iCloud. I think I will save only the device information that I think it's less risk, and I think the company device, sensitive device, maybe we need to save in the drive at home or in a separate SSD drive. Will there be an agreement for employee that wish to bring their own device? What happens if employee violate? What privacy will be granted? What support will organize provide for BYOD user? What safeguards are in place? What the method that will be used securing the device? I will summarize with the last slide for the BYOD mobile security policy, that we need to understand difference between company-owned device and employee-owned device. We need to make sure that user employee understand company right for altering their device. Let's say company want to install the agent in that on their device, they understand this or not. Company can remote wiping lost or stolen device, control their device. They understand it or not. Make sure the user awareness education process are in place. Cyber drill, as previous speaker mentioned earlier, switching simulation, review your AUP, accident use policy, and IT department need to revise your enterprise mobility management, MDM, mobile device management, mobile application management, mobile content management strategy. Sometimes you need to look into the anti-malware at a mobile endpoint or EDR endpoint device that you need endpoint defense and response, detection and response strategy, set minimum requirement for a device, prepare company provide component, let's say SSL certificate for the device authentication. And very important thing, I need to tell you that implement two-factor authentication, two-step verification as a default and minimum requirement. It finished about just username and password, because your username is an email, and the password sometimes very easily to guess, right? Okay, I have 1 minute left. I will talk about a standard that we need to see and implement in your organization. In Thailand, we focus on ISO 27701, NIST Cybersecurity Framework, NIST Privacy Framework, just a new release that we try to implement this in Thailand. As the PDPA is coming to town in Thailand, that 27701 is on the rise, and sometimes we have an intersection between cybersecurity risk and privacy risk. That's why NIST Cybersecurity Framework and NIST Privacy Framework is very important for the organization. We can see there are relationship between cyber framework and privacy framework from NIST, right? Okay, I think 10 minutes I keep on my time, and if you need more information, feel free to reach me at my website, asitonline.net, my YouTube channel, or my email. And we have the big conference in November called Cyber Defense Initiative Conference, or CDIC 2020, and welcome everyone to come to Thailand after COVID, or maybe we can do online, I'm not sure. Okay, let's keep in touch, and thank you, AIBD, and thank you, MDEC, and Mr. Philip Victor again for inviting me. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, Pranya. Thank you very much for your interesting presentation. I know there's quite a lot in it, and then I like to highlight some of the keys for broadcasters, like deepfake and the fake news that are part of this cyber activities. And also you highlighted the importance of where you need to save your important data in your private cloud rather than the public cloud. And also you give a quick comparison between various framework and then connecting that with the privacy frameworks. And also because you have now drawn up, like in the European region, the data privacy legislation. So with that, now we will move on to the next presentation, because we have 2 more presentations to be completed in the next 20 minutes. That's done by Dr. Pawan Tugal, who is the founder and chairman of the International Commission on Cybersecurity Law. And he will be talking about the right approach towards the IoT security, because the IoT is part of the broadcasting and then the other digital world in a common place. Over to you, Dr. Pawan.
Well, Mr. Chairperson, thank you for giving me this opportunity. I want to take this occasion to just highlight some of the emerging trends that are happening globally in the context of not just Internet of Things, but also on cybersecurity. Can I request Mr. Nabil to take the presentation on? The next slide, please. The crucial issue is, what is the right approach towards going forward in regulating issues on cybersecurity? This is the news that's come from the US in the last 24 hours. There's been a massive increase of lobbying amounts spent by the companies, both on cybersecurity of not just the internet, but also of the Internet of Things, as companies are now increasingly wanting to mold and shape the way how new legislations are coming up pertaining to Internet of Things. Next slide, please. Well, when you look at America, the approach is very clear. The Federal Trade Commission is increasingly coming down with a strong hand on those IoT manufacturers who are not paying adequate attention to cybersecurity. A Canadian firm has recently now settled a claim with the Federal Trade Commission, and more significantly, they say that they would soon be coming up with new approaches so as to regulate IoT cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Next slide. Okay, these are COVID times. I call them the monumental times in our history, because life will always be pre-coronavirus or pre-BC and post-corona or after AC. Now, whether you are in pandemic or not, if you're using IoT devices, the chances of IoT devices violating data privacy laws are pretty high. And just because these are pandemic times, there is no reason for us to believe that we can actually dispense with the applicability of available cyber privacy related legislations. Next slide, please. Okay, Samsung has also suffered a cybersecurity breach in South Korea. A number of its connected devices have been impacted. So the message that's coming out is, well, just as the superficial web is not just secure, the Internet of Things presents a different ballgame altogether in terms of constantly increasing cybersecurity breaches. Next slide. Look at this breach that's taken place at the FSB contractor, and that's actually led to going forward and leaking of the details of the IoT hacking projects. So it's big fish eat small fish. It's hackers attacking hackers. It's state and non-state actors attacking other state and non-state actors in the context of IoT. Next slide, please. Well, look at these figures and they tell you that 7 out of 10 organizations have already seen hacking attempts on IoT. And I believe that is a substantial reflection of the current ground reality. Next slide. No wonder cybersecurity is so crucial for all of us as we go forward. And as you look at the internet, you find these new instances. Here is this new Silex malware, which is breaking IoT devices. And these kind of malwares have very, very scary plans because they've realized there are no internationally accepted norms on cybersecurity as far as the Internet of Things is concerned. Next slide. Look at this news that's from the public domain where Russian state hackers have been using IoT devices to breach networks. Nothing new. We've all been hearing about all this, except during coronavirus times, these activities have substantially multiplied because of the unique ecosystem that is currently getting developed. Next slide. We are all at home and consequently, we're all using these IoT devices to our heart's play. It's not just at home that we are using IoT devices. In the medical profession, a lot of these medical IoT devices, wearable devices are being used on a much more higher frequency during the coronavirus times. And I believe that they are providing the fertile opportunity for appropriate hacking by state and non-state cybercriminal actors. Next slide. Look at this latest breach of cybersecurity incident that's happened from India. One of India's biggest IT companies, Cognizant, has been hit by the Maze ransomware attack. And some portion of the IoT could also be behind this particular attack. Too early to say, but these are the trends emerging on the ground. Next slide. Look at how in Europe you find one of the big energy giants actually finding itself to be the victim of a ransomware attack, and it's being asked to pay what, $10 million for purposes of going outside the impact of the ransomware attack. These are new ground realities, and I should begin to see more attacks of ransomware targeting the IoT devices in these coronavirus times. Next slide, please. Well, Samir mentioned about this attack on the Czech hospital, and I think the impact of this attack was not just on the hospital and its networks, but also these medical devices which were connected via the internet, because this hospital in the Brno University was potentially one of the biggest COVID-19 testing laboratories in the Czech Republic. So it's not just an attack on your superficial network, but also on IoT, which tends to paralyze you in today's times. Next slide, please. Look at these again, pictures from the public domain, the growing message very clear. This is an atmosphere of fear and panic. And hackers are increasingly weaponizing this fear and panic and targeting people. No wonder the global cost of cybercrime, which we earlier thought by 2021 should exceed $6 trillion, is moving at a much faster pace. We will achieve this magical figure of loss of $6 trillion US by the end of this year alone. So things are moving at a pretty rapid pace. Next slide, please. No wonder when in today's coronavirus times, work from home has become the de facto norm. People working from home are increasingly using IoT devices. So much they are concentrating on the security of their work from home devices, they are still leaving these IoT devices, these smart phones and the smart refrigerators and the smart TVs on. They were exposing corporate data and information to unauthorized access using the IoT route. Next slide, please. Can we have the next slide? No wonder cybersecurity has become the predominant flavor of today's times. And therefore, it's equally important, not just for the superficial net, but also for the Internet of Things. No wonder the law pertaining to the Internet of Things is continuing to develop. Next slide. Hence, today when we talk of trying to protect cybersecurity in the context of IoT, it's important to understand what kind of policies do we actually require. We require policies that will have to be cognizant of today's growing and increasingly changing new ground realities pertaining to increasing cybersecurity breaches on the Internet of Things. Next slide, please. At this juncture, I want to take you over to a couple of emerging trends that are happening globally. Next slide, please. This is happening in California. California has become the first state in the world which has come up with a new dedicated law on Internet of Things. This is the IoT law of California, which is, has come into effect from 1st of January 2020. It is mandating all manufacturers of IoT devices to have in place reasonable security features as an integral component of the manufacturing process of the IoT device. Next slide, please. This is indeed one of the game-changing legislations that I believe that have happened at a global level. More so, when I look at the way how they have gone ahead and defined connected device, I think the definition, which is on the slide, is so broad enough that it's just going to cover any and every kind of smart device that you can actually go ahead and think of. And therefore, the ambit and applicability of the California law is increasingly getting more and more bigger with the passage of time. Next slide, please. No wonder when I look at the California law, the focus of the law particularly on the companies to be compliant with the new security features is a great idea. So what they are currently looking at is they want these companies that contract manufacturers must equip each connected device with a reasonable security feature or features that are appropriate to the device's nature and function, are appropriate to the information that the device may collect, contain, or transmit, and that are designed to protect the device and information contained therein from unauthorized access, destruction, use, modification, or disclosure. Next slide, please. So this is the broad ambit of what's happening in the California law, and it's applicable to any device that you can think of. And the focus is they all want to basically have a means for authentication outside a local area network. And it comes with a pre-programmed unique password and requires the user to generate a new means of authentication, all aimed at protecting and preserving the cybersecurity of IoT. Next slide, please. So it's a great step forward. A lot of things are happening, but a lot of experts say it's too little, too late. And it may not be very effective, may not be having a deterrent effect. For example, this law does not give any indication of what kind of penalties can be sought, what are the maximum penalties, and whether the enforcement authorities must prove actual harm to consumers prior to seeking penalties. So they say Rome was not built in one day. So no legislation is complete, but at least a beginning has been made in California. Next slide, please. While California has given the signal to the rest of the world, we have begun to start seeing things happening in other US states as well. For example, Oregon has now also come up with a law on the Internet of Things in the United States of America, almost on similar lines like the California law, asking the manufacturers to implement reasonable security features as part of the manufacturing process of IoT devices. Next slide. But when I take you outside the US, I find work also happening globally. One of the biggest work that's happening in this regard is in the United Kingdom. The United Kingdom has now come up with a new law on the Internet of Things, but here the focus of the law is trying to ensure consumer protection. And of course, protecting cybersecurity becomes a crucial element in this regard. Next slide, please. When I look at the UK law, it has some various salient features, but it actually is requiring that all internet connected device passwords must be unique and users must be unable to reset them to any universal factory settings, and manufacturers will be obliged to provide a public point of contact for reporting security flaws and must explicitly state the minimum level of time that will be required to provide security updates. So it's like different rivers flowing into the ocean. They all take their own respective routes, but ultimately the objective is the same. Next slide, please. From UK.
You're closer to your end, Amal.
Sure. I'll just take a minute to tell you about. Next slide, please. Can I have the next slide? Here is just to let you know about things happening in the UAE. Here also a new policy is coming up. Next slide. Australia is coming up with a new policy, a new draft code. The predictions are very, very clear that this draft code could potentially be a voluntary code of conduct for IoT. Next slide. We have a lot of future predictions. I will just leave it aside. Next slide. All I can say is that all this is coming up to a new cyber world order. A new order is coming up not just in cyberspace, but also on the Internet of Things, where cybersecurity breaches will be the new normal. Next slide. And finally, I believe that in this new cyber world order, there'll be focus increasingly on cybersecurity. Next slide, please. Nabil, can I just ask you to, yes. Oh, sorry, no problem. Okay. So I think here is my final slides to say, look, cyber law is going to play a very important role, and the law pertaining to IoT will have to constantly keep on increasing. Next slide. I think in this context, I would also want to highlight, next slide, please, about the fact that a lot of work is being done by various stakeholders, but far more work is required to be done in the context of IoT. Next slide. We already have a couple of new courses that we have created on the IoT and cybersecurity at Cyber Law University, which is again aiming at sensitizing users on this. But ultimately, cybersecurity issues on the Internet of Things will be more important. These are just sampling of some of the issues that we are dealing in some of these capacity building courses. A lot of work needs to be done, but yes, these are early days. But yes, our focus has to be on increasingly having the right policy for cybersecurity in the context of Internet of Things. Thank you, Mr. Chairperson.
Thanks, Dr. Pawan. Thank you. I know it's a short time. We need to talk a lot, but you highlighted two important aspects, which is about the law that has been instituted in US in some of the states, California and Oregon, for IoT. We will catch up with that soon because there are some questions, and I have a question too, and also about the contact tracing related to COVID. So, but last but not the least, the presentation in the panel is from Mr. Manu Sachira, and he's the CEO and Chief Mentor of Hom-aek IT Technology and Advisory Service. And he's going to talk about ransomware payments on the rise strategy moving forward. And I'll hand over the floor to you, Manu, and if you could do the presentation within 10 minutes, much appreciated. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Can you start the slides, please? Somehow the slides are not getting attached from here.
Probably, Nabil, can you?
I'm trying to share the slide from here. It's not.
Can you share your screen? The yellow, green color up arrow button.
Yeah, I just tried that. It's not getting loaded here. The slides are not getting loaded. So if you can run it from.
Yeah, Nabil has done that, and then I'll hope to see you on the screen over there rather than me.
Okay. Thank you so much, AIBD, for giving me this opportunity. I'll try to finish. I know we are running short of time, so I'll try to finish it as early as possible. Can we move to the next slide? So in cybersecurity, there is a very famous saying, there are two kinds of people, people that know that they have been hacked and people that don't. Now, when it comes to ransomware, this is not the case because ransomware has an impact. It is very evident that you have been hacked or you have been compromised. Can we move to the next slide, please? Yeah, so everybody understands the definition of ransomware, so I'm not spending too much time. Basically, it's a malware which gets into your system and then locks your files. And if you want to access it, it basically demands a certain amount of money or bitcoins or all those financial values. Next slide, please. Now, what happens when you get infected, or what happens is the first thing is the downtime. Now, what is the average downtime? I'll cover it when we get into the statistics slides, but there is a downtime, and nowadays there is a probability of a data breach or an intellectual property theft. So these are the two impact points that I would highlight here. We'll be talking more on the financial numbers here in the coming slides. Next slide, please. Now, modern ransomwares are very, very advanced. Some of the features that we should know, the first one is polymorphic. I know it's a little bit technical term, but what this means is how the ransomware behaves on Monday is not how it behaves on Tuesday. So it has a different, it adopts new behaviors depending on the location, the date, time, and all those things. That's what we mean by polymorphic. It's highly evasive in the sense that it can bypass most of the modern firewalls. They are capable of lateral movements, which means if they get into your network and from one machine, it can jump to another machine and then get into the accounts department systems or development networks, all those things. They are capable of searching certain kinds of files. So let's say you have a backup somewhere on the network. It has the capability to search and destroy or delete or encrypt those backups. They have the capability to steal credentials. Most of us save our login details like username, passwords, or credit card details. Most of the ransomware, they have the capability to steal these credentials. And some cases, they publicly expose the victim. For example, they might steal your confidential data and post it in websites like Pastebin or other public platforms. And we have seen so many examples where the malware or the ransomware creators threaten the victim's customers and demand more money. So these are some of the features we say for the ransomware version 2. Can we move to the next slide, please? If you look at the statistics, you can see that every 14 seconds, an organization comes under attack under the ransomware category. And most of the small businesses, just because they don't have the policies or the infrastructure in place, 55% of the small businesses pay the ransom so that they have the data back. Now, the projected ransomware damage cost by 2021 is approximately $20 billion US. Can we move to the next slide, please? And the next point is what is very, very important. The average downtime is almost 15 days. This is a study released in the last 2 months. So once you get infected or once you have the data encrypted, your return to operation is approximately 15 days. And 99% of the payments are made using Bitcoins. Let's not get into that, but Bitcoin is very famous in the ransomware sphere. Next slide, please. Now, one thing that if we are talking from a COVID perspective, so if you look at the Q4 2019 and Q1 2020, the percentage of increase is approximately 200 to 300% increases there when it comes to ransomware attacks. So I've picked up 3 random ransomwares, and you can see that 2 of them, the percentage increase between these 2 quarters is approximately 200 to 300%. Next slide, please. Now the attack vectors, how these attacks or malicious ransomwares get into your network. The previous slide, please. No, the pie chart. The attack vectors. Okay, if it is not coming up, no problem. The most of the ransomware attacks get into your system through the commonly used remote access protocols. The most commonly found is the Windows remote desktop protocol. So 60% studies have shown that it happens through RDP. 26% happens through phishing mails, and 10% is through unpatched system. We call it the software vulnerabilities, and 4% we can credit to other sources. So the remote access protocols is the major attack vector through which most of the attacks happens, is the summary here. Let's go to the next slide to understand the industries targeted. Almost every industry is being targeted. The slides are being shared, so you can review it after the presentation also. Almost every industry, mainly targeting the service industry. Our previous speaker, Dr. Pawan Duggal, said one of the largest attack that happened in the previous month was the IT attack on an Indian IT giant. So, it was a very big attack. And in the last 2 weeks also, we handled 2 or 3 cases related to the medical industry also. So nobody is spared in this COVID attack time, whether it is the, the IT industry or the financial industry or the medical industry. The ransomwares are targeting every possible networks. Now, why this surge is there, as most of the speakers already covered, the work from home is the first reason for this increase in the attack. Now, we are using our personal laptops as well as mobile, and these laptops are used to connect to your corporate network. So there is a security domain difference here. The security domain that you have at your home network is different from your corporate network. Now, you might have a browser. I am not sure how many of us on a regular basis update our Firefox or Chrome, but in the corporate, we have policies and procedures in place. So when we connect from home network, we might have an unpatched browser, which is creating the problem for the network security here. The other thing is, maybe I'm not sure how many of you have games and other entertainment mobile apps. So most of them, they have vulnerabilities. So when you use your mobile or your laptop, which has these rogue applications to connect to the corporate network, they pose a very big threat. Next slide, please. So all these points that we just discussed, they increase the attack surface, which means it provides a very broad spectrum for the attackers to target your network, or multiple ways to get into your network, basically. Next slide, please. Now, some of the activities that the attackers carry out. The first and the most important one is they carry out phishing. They'll send you mails with subjects related to COVID-19 or something that will attract us to click on that or open it. The second is they will distribute either PDF files or EXEs or binaries, which will have some naming convention related to COVID or anything that is a hot topic today. So, for example, some migrant, laborers moving, or COVID vaccine, or they use keywords like this. Then the third activity that we have observed is the registration of new domain names related to COVID. So they'll say, okay, covidnews.org, and then they'll try to send links and all those things. Next slide, please. And most of the company, when they had to start working remotely, they introduced the remote access without doing a proper security audit or security posture examination. So this is another activity that most of the attackers tried to explore. And finally, the fake mobile apps. Lot of cases we can, every day we see through the news. Either people claim that, okay, you install this application, it will give you the number of people around you, or it will update you about the government instructions and all those things. So they try to get into your mobile through these kind of fake mobile applications. So these are the 5 major threat activities conducted by most of the attackers to launch a ransomware attack. Next slide, please. Now, once we have any of these things happening, for example, let's say you install a fake mobile application, what all possibilities are there? So let's say you have a 2-factor authentication happening for your VPN connection to your corporate network. The attacker now has access to this. The attacker has access to your corporate emails configured in your mobile. They can record your, your geolocation or your voice or your video. They can extract your address book, and then they can plan a major attack to all the contacts in your, phone or address book. They can even generate a communication from your laptop or your mobile, which is generally considered a trusted entity when you communicate to another trusted entity. So basically, breaking that trust is another activity that these people exploit when they get into your system with the help of these fake applications. Next slide, please. So what are the action plans? Most of these are already covered by the previous speakers, but just to summarize from a ransomware action point, the first is we should have a home policy or work from home policy, and the best practices defined. But please be sure that, what is required for the IT industry is not what is required for the medical industry. So we need to be industry specific advisory has to be released. One of the most prominent point from a ransomware attack is have backup process in place, and make sure that you're storing it both locally as well as remote, probably in a DR site or probably on cloud. And when you implement the work from home, make sure you do a gap analysis, what you want to achieve and where you are currently, and review your security posture. Whether your organization is ready for work from home, have a thorough review of it. Awareness is very, very important. Couple of speakers already talked about that. And this awareness also has to be role specific, in the sense the awareness required for the CXOs are different from the awareness required for the account staff or for the management people, various departments within our organization. We need to have different types and levels of advisories. Next slide, please. One of the major thing that most of the companies miss out is having an audit trail and continuous monitoring. So this is something that we need to implement to make sure that the remote access is continuously monitored. And in case if something wrong happens, we have a mechanism to go back and find out what was the loophole that the attackers exploited. So implement an audit trail, set up a help desk, which should address at least 3 points. One is it should act as a support desk. Second is it should also act as a platform for reporting incidents and how we should respond. There should be standard operating procedures in place. And also release a weekly update. For example, let's say Firefox released a patch, your organization should inform all your employees, okay, in case if you're working from home and if you're using Firefox, there is an update, please install it from this location. So have an advisory every weekly. That's one best practice that we can all follow. And communication, very, very important. Make sure that whatever changes that we make in the working process policies, communicated to all concerned. Next slide, please. So I'd like to conclude with 3 quotes. The first is a very, very important, one of my favorite comment that I always share. A technology that has the power to give you everything is a technology that can take everything that you have. So the technology is very powerful. It can do so many wonders, but if you don't handle it properly, it can take everything from you. The second is the reputation that we created over the years, like 10 years, 20 years, it only needs one bad click to take it away. So that's another thing that we have to remember. And the third one, next slide, please. Security is not a product or a process, it's a culture. So at the same time, when we say security is a culture, we need to do business also. And if we can run this business and be part of the security culture, then most of our security challenges are addressed. So if this we can incorporate in our organization, then implementing security and enforcing security becomes very, very easy. So with that, I would like to conclude, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you so much once again. Any questions? Please let me know.
Thank you, Manu. We will take all the questions in the next few minutes, and we will bring all the panelists on board now. And there are a few questions. And Nabil, will it be possible for us to get those questions for them to ask by owning their microphones?
Yes, they can raise their hands, and then we can allow them to unmute themselves, and then they can ask.
Sure, because we have, I think, one Mr. Sivakumar and one Mr. Singh. If they could identify if they are around, and we could allow them to ask. If not, we could still...
yeah, we have one hand raised, and
right.
It's Sivakumar, yeah.
Okay, so let him ask the question from the panel. Mr. Sivakumar, could you
unmute yourself?
Yeah, Dr. Amal and Nabil, I had asked that question, but most of it has already been covered by Samir. But still, I would like to know, from experts, including Pavanji, what exactly can a person do right away to ensure that he is secure and he is working in a home environment, and how will you figure out whether you've been hacked or whether you are somebody is able to hack you?
Yeah, if you have been carefully listening to all the panelists, I'm sure the answer is not a very great one, but I will let some of those panelists answer that question. Who would like to do that? Pavan, you want to do that? Okay, please go ahead.
Thank you, Shiva, for asking that question. There are no magical golden answers, formulas, or principles. There's only going to be one fundamental issue, and that's what Manu talked about. We will have to start incorporating cybersecurity as a way of life. Expecting the governments, the organizations, others to make yourself more secure, I think is a wrong expectation to begin with. Yes, we must also begin with the basic premise that we will always be under attack and we could always be potential victims. Once we wake up with this realization, we automatically not only start adopting more cyber hygiene methodologies, as various speakers have identified, but more significantly, we enter into a new era of cyber maturity. And once backups become the only mantra for us, we quickly realize that, look, each day is a new day, but each new challenge is a new opportunity to learn something. Thanks.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, now that reminded me, like what our Prime Minister tells always on TV, that imagine you have the virus or the coronavirus or your neighbor. So precaution, the hygiene. So the health hygiene, and that's what I said about the cyber hygiene. And then that's what all you talked about. So it's all about like try to mitigate, and then it's not possible to completely sort of prevent it, but mitigate and then take action, and then best practices, and keep conscious of that fact. Anyone else want to add to that, Manu?
Yeah, so basically, awareness is what is, I would say, what are we doing? And, we should know where we are going or what are we doing. For example, certainly if you see a new app which you have not installed, that alertness is what we need to have, because we are not, the internet is not what it used to be 20 years before. Now, every as I said, every hour our organizations or our mobile devices are under attack. So basically awareness and incorporating the security culture is what is required. Just like in the physical world, maybe probably 3 or 4 months before, nobody in India cared about a hand sanitizer. And today, every home or every bag has a hand sanitizer. That's the security culture. So the same security culture is what we need to incorporate in our daily IT life, is what is my comment on this.
Exactly. And I also want to pick up from when you started the creating awareness and then the training. And this is exactly what we are doing at the AIBD with its mandate to educate and the capacity building, especially the human capacity building, and trying to create awareness among the people who are connected to broadcasting. What is, to try to understand them that what is cybersecurity, and then how best you could manage to mitigate the harm from that one. Yeah, it's a great thing.
Okay, and we have another question. We have another question by Mr. Ashok Tirwa. So he's unmuted.
Please.
So
yeah, please ask him to. Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Ashok from Bhutan.
Hi, Ashok.
Hi.
Go ahead with the question.
Is to Mr. Philip Victor.
Right.
He gave us guidelines of how to, guidelines for parents and carers and guardians. Is there a way to remotely monitor the activities of children while they are on internet? Because now Bhutan is not under lockdown, but schools are closed, and then we have children who have access to internet all the time, because we have also started, online classes and all that thing, e-learning. And
Philip,
most of the children have access to internet in Bhutan.
Yeah, Philip, can you comment on that?
Yeah.
And I'll add to that sometime after that. Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
Thanks, Ashok. Yeah, I mean, it is there are basically a couple of ways. There are softwares out there where you can track. See, the thing is that we always try to be as less intrusive as possible to our children. You don't want to be too intrusive, because when they know that, oh, my dad is watching me, my mom is watching me, it gets a little bit the thing, and you don't gain their trust so much, because what you want to do is to make them feel comfortable, because at the end of the day, when something happens, you want your kids to come back and tell you, hey, Dad, look, this thing happened to me today. But when you don't build that friendship with your kids, they become, further away from you, and they tend not to talk to you more. But what you could do is, there are softwares where, there are ways to look at what they have done, but try not to let them know you're doing it. You don't go and say, look, I've installed this in the computer. I know what you're doing. I know where you're going. I know, when you start doing that, they become very and they tend to find ways to bypass those kind of things. So the idea here is to, I think, even the previous question is related to this, is trying to make sure everybody practices the best practice. You need to tell your kids, look, there are people out there who are not who they seem to be. They may say that they are your age group, but they may not be that person. So, when you feel suspicious about something, I think educating your kids and making them aware of these things is a far better way to handle it than to try to kind of this thing. But if you need to, you can. There are softwares out there. Again, I don't want to propose any particular one, but there are ways to know, like for you to check and see, oh, they have visited these places. They have visited this site. This is where, those kind of things. There are softwares like that, but keep it as less intrusive as possible, because you want to build a relationship with your kids rather than trying to be somebody who's watching over their shoulder too much. So I'm speaking from experience, by the way. I myself have 4 kids, and but they are already past towards the end of the teens already. So I try to teach them the values in terms of how to detect this, how to ensure that you are talking to the right person. Because this is something I thought about this. Now, you see, kids today are very different from like how we are. They are more like I have the most number of followers on my Instagram. I want to have 6,000 followers. I want to have 20,000 likes. So they don't care who is coming on. They accept everybody. So much so I do a lot of talks for university students, for school students last time. And I always ask them, do you know all your 5,000 followers? No, I don't know. Do you know all your 5,000 Facebook friends? No, I don't know all of them. Then how can you call them friends? You know, so we need to teach them things like that and make them know, like, then they start questioning themselves. Oh yeah, I don't know this person. I don't know that person. So there are many ways to tackle this problem. So if we can look at it in various different ways, I think we can address the problem. I think the best way is always education awareness. Then if we see it not going the right way, then we try to put in the other measures.
Yeah, thank you. I think Ashok, you got the answer. Philip gave a very good explanation, and then the straight answer is yes, there is software. But what is important, you would remember Philip and also Samir said, empowerment, and it's not, you are like a police person. You're not policing it. Let the child explore that opportunity, because that's the opportunity given by this the digital world for them to move. But they should be aware of the dangers in that. That's a point he said. Yeah, thank you. Have you got any other question, Nabil?
Yes, Anupam Yadav is raising his hand, and I had already unmuted.
Yeah, could you ask Anupam?
Good afternoon, sir. Anupam Yadav from New Delhi, Doordarshan. Sir, India has effectively banned video conferencing service Zoom for government users and repeated warning that consumers need to be careful when using the tool. What is the basic app which we are using for my government organizations? Because the document refers to past advisors that offered advice on how to use Zoom securely and warned that Zoom has weak authentication methods. Neither of those notifications mentioned policy about government use of the tool, meaning the new document is a significant change in position.
Yeah, okay. We understood your question, Anupam. I'll get some of the panelists to ask, but I would like to use this instant actually to summarize what we did in our webinar today. It's a collective thing. You would remember when I gave the introduction, I said so many points from that ITU definition, the best practices. So there is always, because you remember Manu said, technology create everything for you, but it could take back, because the technology can also be used for harmful things, for bad. So that's where there is no end to this. So if you take any product, software based or hardware based, they may have some vulnerabilities, and then so we need to be aware of that, and that's what even Dr. Pawan said. Some of the legislation coming up, and then I wanted to highlight that in our broadcast industry, we have a volunteer scheme where the vendors need to disclose that, and then the broadcasters need to be aware of that, and the users. So it's a constantly learning exercise where we are trying to mitigate the risk. So it's a collection of many tools, the practices, and precautions, like what I said earlier, the metaphor. The metaphor is like it's like this coronavirus. So you must have the cyber hygiene. I like the panelists to take maybe another 2-3 minutes to expand what I said. That's my view. But what the other is Victor around? Victor and Dr. Are they around? Victor Lu?
I think, hi.
Victor is not in the room, but I think Dr. Pawan wanted to answer this question.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, no, I wanted like other views as well, but yes,
Yeah.
please go ahead.
Vipul is not in the room.
Yeah,
I
sure,
think,
please go ahead.
Thank you. I was just saying that, yes, the government of India, like many countries across the world, whether it's Taiwan, whether it's Singapore, or whether it's the New York City, they have, as also NASA, which they have actually said that they are not going to use Zoom. But these bans are only acting as a catalyst for further adoption of Zoom. Yes, there are challenges to Zoom. And if you're in the government of India does not want you to use Zoom because of the security challenges. You are encouraged to use the video platform services that are provided by the National Informatics Center of the Government of India, which is more secure. But in case if you're still using Zoom, if you have more control over the advanced settings and you make sure that no one else can post any information about or share the screen on the Zoom, then to a large extent, you can prevent these instances of Zoom bombing or Zoom hijacking taking place and try to be more secure. But ultimately, there's nothing called absolute security. It's a relative term, and we have to keep on constantly improving our definitions, perspectives, and opinions on the same with each passing day. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Pawan. No, I didn't want to use the Zoom itself for the discussion point because it's being a product, we need to be quite neutral. But you highlighted the fact anyone who has been following that would know at the beginning, Zoom had many vulnerabilities, and having identified them, they fixed them. So people do identify them, then they fix them, and then there may be more vulnerabilities. So this is a kind of a cycle that goes on. And then it's a user up to the user to pick whatever the product they want. Yeah, Philip, you want to comment anything on that?
I think that recently the NSA has also come up with a report on the comparison with all the video conferencing tools, and I was sharing it on my Facebook the other day because I've been posting a lot. But Dr. Amal is right. I think in any situation you see that when somebody comes out with something new, there's always the little bit of here and there. And, you know, it's always, I mean, of course, we go back, if we take many steps back, we always try to advocate security by design, but it always doesn't always happen, you know. Yeah. But today, because we have got a lot of people who are looking into things like that, that's why Zoom was flagged. And good enough, Zoom acknowledged their flaws, and they did some changes. Of course, those changes are not yet at a very high capacity yet, but they made some immediate changes. They added a little bit of security here and there. And I was checking it out, and I found that not bad for a start. You know, they've added in the password where you can use your phone, you can generate, and you can, they've also allow you to lock your rooms when you go in and stuff like that. So I think when they provide you with these basic functions, you need to use it first, as they are doing more. Their encryption may not be the highest level yet, but they said they're working on it. So again, things will evolve as it goes along. And I think that NSA document was very good because it shows a comparison with all the video chat applications. It tells you which one has encryption, two-factor authentication, what kind of security, so we can make a choice from there. We can decide which is the best for our needs. If we are doing confidential stuff, then go for the higher end one. If you think it's just for group chats and all that, you know, use it, but use the best practices. So it's coming, it's evolving, it's coming.
Yeah. Thank you, Philip. Yeah, because you reminded me one more thing which I wanted to earlier tell, which was mentioned a few times, which is the design for security. So it's a way that now either the hardware system or the software system is the design. I think Ms. Philomena, do you think we could take one more question, or we could slowly start wrapping it up?
Go ahead, Doctor. I think one or two.
Yeah, okay. Nabil, is there any, I think possibly one question we could take. Anyone on the, Nabil?
Dr. Amal, I think there's a question on the chat. if you check your chat right now, there's a question that's asking about how do you ensure cybersecurity when cybersecurity itself, it's going to cost a lot. So I don't really get what she's trying to say, but perhaps someone can look at chat and then answer that question from it's in the chat.
Right.
How can a parent provide security if the price of security is much more? So I think, is that really a valid question?
Yeah, no, in a sense, it's a kind of valid question. Philip and also other speakers highlighted that fact because of the COVID-19, now both parents and the kids are at home, and then the parents are burdened with working from home remotely and then looking after the kids as well. So how they could look after. So I would like to add at this point something that we have in New Zealand. In New Zealand, all the school systems, they are going through a kind of a filter mechanism. So the teacher does not need to look at, no need to police. So they are given the freedom. So they are sort of covered from any of the harming activities. But in home system, you may not have the same level of protection. So that's what the person may be asking. And then, and I read another place about like what we have antivirus thing. So do we have anything, something similar to that to protect that one? No, it's not, no product like that. It's the basic thing is like Philip mentioned, the education. You need to talk to your kids. You need to show your confidence, the faith that you have with your child, and let them do things, but be aware where they are visiting. And then all of the, sorry.
Yeah, Dr. Amal, I think we have a question. Sorry to interrupt, but that's
no, it's okay.
Yeah, she wants to ask a question to Philip. Philip, is there an educational framework that has been designed? Have you seen that? Yes.
Okay, I saw Dr. Ng's question. Is there any educational framework that's been designed? Now, again, this is a very wide audience here, so it's country per country basis. Malaysia doesn't have an official kind of cybersecurity education framework yet, though schools are beginning to incorporate it in some of part of their syllabus, a little bit of awareness in IT, but there's no real, it's not good enough, if you ask me. But having said that, like in Malaysia, we have Cybersecurity Malaysia. Cybersecurity Malaysia does do programs in schools. Again, your question is the framework. I think that it should be at school educational framework level. There's only so much that Cybersecurity Malaysia can do. Same goes to other countries. There's only so much that a country's national cert or the National Cybersecurity Agency can do for the country. It should be incorporated within the framework of the education system itself. So it's not there fully yet, but it's beginning to come in little by little, the basics, but it's not good enough yet, because I know they have IT and a little bit of this and that coming in, but it's not the real awareness as what we would like to see. But again, I would say that even before the education, I would say that having a national hotline, a national or a regional, national hotline number is a very, very important aspect to start with, or at least they know when, while they bring it into the education framework. And I hope that the Education Ministry will start looking at putting in a formal awareness framework, because kids are beginning to start computers at a very, very, very early age. And start, and that's not happening. So, I cannot say for other countries much worse. I know the awareness and all that is there, but it should go for all the countries.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you for your contribution. Maybe it's time for us to slowly start wrapping it up. Let me give a very quick sort of summary, but not try to repeat what we said. Look at that in a different perspective, because at least during last 2 years, there was like extensive discussion about disruptive technologies. I don't want to talk technologies, but technology is the creator. And then COVID-19 is a real disruptor in my view, and also offer challenges and opportunities while we are moving on. And I'm a believer of sort of middle path based on my faith. So we should be able to navigate the way forward without moving to any of the extremes and of the manner we deploy technology and using it for the betterment of the public. So the key is the collaboration, and I hope all the stakeholders in the broadcast and the media industry can foster such a innovation and sustainable environment while combating this COVID-19 and other challenges. So with that, I want to thank all 7 speakers for their insight to the cybersecurity webinar that we did, especially for broadcasters and media industries. And also, I would like to thank all the participants who have been hanging on all this time with us, even when you're going a little over the time, and for this webinar. But last but not least, AIBD for inviting me to moderate the webinar. And I hand over back the mic back to Ms. Philomena, the director of AIBD. Thank you, Philo.
Thank you so much, Dr. Amal. And I want to thank all the speakers who have been sharing so much. You know, there's been a lot of quotes that have come out of you. And some of you I know are such busy people. You're still hanging on. And I would really like to say thank you. But one thing that I want to mention is that this is the first time that the world is experiencing a lockdown as such. We're looking at almost 100% of, half the world's population is on lockdown, and 100% of people perhaps are working remotely. And some of you brought out this interesting aspect of this is what has actually given rise to more cyber crimes. So perhaps for the future, this is something to think about, a real reflection of what we should do in terms of cybersecurity. We're talking about problems for our children and a whole lot of issues that have cropped up in your discussions. So perhaps we should look into something, a future where we can actually look into this real area of cybersecurity and perhaps learn from this experience and create some SOPs or some new way forward. So I hope that this webinar gives rise to that. And again, I want to thank everyone who has come on board, and mostly to my partner, Prasar Bharati. They've kept everyone locked on the television by keeping Ramayana and Mahabharata on so that no one is actually going on the internet. So that's a huge success there to the CEO. And to everybody else who joined us, Mr. Priya, we hope to work with you someday on your cybersecurity conferences. AIBD has so many media people, and I think they will greatly benefit as we have benefited today. Thank you so much. Thank you also to Dr. Amal and to the producer who made this possible, Nabil Tirmizi. Thank you, everybody. Stay safe. Thank you.
Stay safe.
Just wanted to add one thing that we were having some initial difficulty with streaming on Facebook, but nevertheless, the whole session will be shared on Facebook and YouTube channel. So whoever has registered on our forms, we will be sharing the links with them. And if you have any questions for our panelists, we will be able to bridge the questions for you. So thank you very much, and
thank you,
stay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you all. Bye.
Nice meeting and nice talking.